Well, hello everyone. Good afternoon slash good morning slash good evening, depending on where you are. It's wonderful to see all of your faces coming into the meeting. Many of you know me. My name is Joe. I've spoken to most, if not all of you, so it's great to see you. I am currently under a blanket because I'm in a very cold Oxford. Hopefully where you are, it's a bit more pleasant, but season's greetings to all of you. And welcome to your welcome event for the Diploma in Global Business. I'm aware that you're in different parts of the world, and I'm very grateful that you've taken the time to join us. As well as congratulating you again on successfully joining the program and being part of this Oxford journey, the main purpose of this call is to introduce you to two very important people in the life of this program. One is the program director, Professor Murray Sacco, that will shortly provide you with an introduction to the program, what to expect. And the second is your program manager, Hilary O'Hare, who is going to be by your side from this point up to the end of your program, supporting you. And the idea of this session is to give you the blueprint of what you can do between today and Module 1 next month to prepare to join the program. Just a quick agenda and a few ground rules. The agenda is as I've described. I'll provide a very brief welcome, and then we'll hand over to Mary. Then Hilary will give you her introduction. At the end of all of that, we're going to have space for a Q&A. I'm sure you already have lots of questions, and I'm sure you'll have questions arising throughout the session. Please wait until that Q&A session because we might answer your question at some point. But if not, we will open it up for questions. And then after that, there is a chance for you to meet each other and start getting to know your class. And there is a networking activity. That's at the end. So if you need to drop off after the formal bit, then you're welcome to do so. But if you wanted to meet your classmates, then you're very welcome to. In terms of ground rules, most of you have done this, but if you could turn your camera on, that would be great, so we could see you. And if you could mute your microphone when you're not talking, that would also be great as well. You can submit questions in the chat, and our head of program services, Jonathan Dawson, is also on the call to monitor the chat and answer any other questions that you have. But bear in mind, we will have space for that in the Q&A session. And finally, this session is being recorded. If you have to drop off or there's some people that haven't made it, then you will be able to catch up with the full recording. So hopefully you feel like you're welcomed to the event and you know what's going to happen over the next 45 minutes or so. So in the spirit of this being an interactive event, I'd like to invite you to the first stage of interaction. I'm sure that you all have many different reasons to look forward to joining the program. And I wondered if a couple of you wouldn't mind sharing that reason. So if someone is brave enough to unmute themselves and give you a quick introduction, your name and where you are, and share one aspect of the diploma program you're most looking forward to. So I'm going to open the floor to the bravest person. Who'd like to go first?
Well, Joe, my name is Kurt Westgard, and I'm here in Nashville, Tennessee in USA. And I basically right now have, well, three things going on, but two things that are business related. One is a business consultancy. I've been in international trade for almost 30 years now, and I'm working on a business with my son. But the thing that I am looking most forward to is just the engagement, the intellectual engagement, and the opportunity for growth. You know, as I'm 52 now, and I just am looking so forward to meeting all of you, and to just having the opportunity to take advantage of all of the learning opportunities that Oxford, that you, Joe, have shared with me, you know, the opportunities that are there. And so anyway, I'll shut up now, but thank you so much for letting me share.
Thank you so much, Kurt, for kicking us off. I wonder, is there one more person that would like to share their perspective? What are they looking forward to?
Hello, everyone.
The value will be 70 times.
Can you hear me?
Is that Jewel? Yeah, go for it.
Yes, it's Jewel. Thanks, Joseph. Thank you. I'm really grateful to be here and meet everyone. My name is Jewel. I'm currently working for a company called Hentech Group. So the reason I joined this program is because, you know, my daily job is actually related to the business global business. I'm currently working across to 3 offices, one in London, one in Dubai, and one in Hong Kong. So yeah, I feel like this program gonna definitely help me on my job based, but also gonna help me in the future too. I want to shape my skill and to learn more from this program, also from everyone here as well.
Fantastic, Jewel. Thank you so much. Okay, brilliant. So Jewel and Kurt are leading the way in the interaction so far. Thank you very much. Brilliant. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just give you a bit of an idea of who to expect in the class. The people on this call this isn't the exhaustive list of who's in the class. There's many people that can't attend. We're also accepting a few last-minute applications as well. But based on who has enrolled so far, this is what you can expect. First of all, this is the Diploma in Global Business, so it's only fair that the globe is well represented. And this is what it's currently looking like in terms of that global conversation. So we're looking at the highest proportion of people crossing the Atlantic to join this program. Shortly behind that are people from various parts of Asia, 1 in 5 students from Europe, and then the other continents well represented. Albeit there's no one currently making the brave and arduous journey from Australia or New Zealand. In last year's cohort, it was the same situation until after module 1, one of the students moved to Sydney. So I could finally tick off that we had every continent represented. So if we don't get someone between now and January and someone would like to move to Australia, so I can update this slide, that would be brilliant. But yeah, hopefully you feel like this is a globally representative group that you'll be joining. In terms of diversity of perspective, because it's not just about where you're from, but it's also about what you're doing. Here is an idea of some of the sectors represented. Some of your companies might be here as well, and some of the roles of the people that are joining the program. I previously showed this slide and someone had a go at me for using the wrong logo because their logo had been updated. So if that's you, I'm very sorry. I've done my best. And on the right-hand side, you can see as well an idea of the age. And so we have, again, a good diversity in terms of the stage of the career that people are in. The average age in the class is 41, and you can see that that's sort of a median average. But there's lots of experience, several hundreds of years of accumulative work experience in the class. So I'm excited to bring you all together in person in Oxford for Module 1. This is probably quite a helpful slide. Currently, what you have seen is the module dates only, and I made sure that you were free for those 4 journeys to Oxford. But actually, this slide gives you hopefully a better indication of what your year will look like. So there are these 4 modules, and the in-person dates in Oxford are shown there, but you are hopefully familiar. Many of you hopefully have already made your travel and accommodation plans for these modules. And then beneath that is when the assessment is released, and you'll notice that each assessment has a 10-day period between it being released and the deadline. And so this is what your year will look like, because obviously reserving that time to complete the assessment is arguably just as important as reserving the time to be in Oxford. And then there's a note at the bottom there, results are released approximately 2 months after each deadline. But that can vary depending on the different times of the year. But this is the kind of information that Hilary and her team will be helping you to understand as you prepare for the program. Okay, lots of information already and activity in the chat. But it's at this stage, I'd like to hand over and introduce you to Professor Mari Sacco, the Program Director of our Diploma in Global Business. So I'm delighted to introduce you, Mari, who will provide an introduction to all of you. I'm going to stop sharing and over to you, Mari.
Great, thank you, Joe. Yes, I was going to ask you to unshare, and that's great to see everybody. And for those of you who I'm sure have some connection issues or whatever, I can't see you, but if you're able to show yourself, it'd be great. And so Joe is one of 2 people you're going to meet today. There's Hilary as well, who will speak after me. But as you can imagine, this is really to be able to design and deliver a program program like this is very much a team sport. So once you arrive in Oxford, you'll definitely see a whole bunch of other people from the library, IT, you name it. And so you'll be in good hands for sure. But I should start really by congratulating all of you. Of course, you know, the first hurdle is to decide to apply, and you've done that, which is wonderful. You know, at that stage, I'm sure a lot of you are full-time engaged in your work, and you know, you have family and other competing demands in your time. So well done for deciding to apply. And then the second big congratulation is, of course, due to the fact that you've got accepted. So that's no easy feat. That you've been you know, selected among very many different applications, and so well done. And I'm really, really excited. I hope you're excited as much as I am, and really excited to welcome you to Oxford in just over a month's time, actually. But for today, I just want to say a few words about the program and, you know, what you could be kind of thinking between now and then as well. And to start with, just a few words about myself. So I have been the academic director of this diploma in global business from its inception, which was 2011. So I've had a hand in just kind of, you know, starting from a blank sheet of paper, luxury, to be able to create something completely new. And I really enjoy that. But you also have a decade and a half of previous cohorts of students who's given us feedback on what they liked, what they thought could be done better. So you're a beneficiary of all the past cohorts of students, of whom there are hundreds of them now. So I hope that you will also continue in that spirit of continuous improvement and actually provide us, you know, with lots of feedback about what you, you know, want to get out of this. So I think Joe's question about what you're looking, you know, forward to most is a good starting point for thinking about that. But, you know, you can see amongst yourselves how international you guys are. And so I am a product of the Oxford undergraduate education. I did philosophy, politics, and economics, but I'm Japanese by nationality, and I grew up not just in London, but also previously in Lebanon and Egypt, as well as in Japan. So I hope I'll add to that kind of internationalism, which is a really great starting point for having a truly global conversation, which is, you know, necessary. I think also that, you know, the ways in which we want to run our sessions is not kind of like one-way lecturing. A lot of it is interactive, which requires, you know, you to be prepared before you appear, but also to be able to be very open-minded about being able to interact with people who have different opinions. Disagreements, I think, are really great, you know, in terms of honing your own position with respect to specific issues. And so you will be, I bet, learning as much from each other. Of course, your networking is great for the ways in which you want to kind of think about new jobs that you want to get onto, or new projects that you want to collaborate with. But within the classrooms, I can assure you that you'll be learning as much from each other as from the instructors. And the instructors are going to hail not just from the business schools. I have my immediate colleagues in my group, which is in global business, that I'll talk more concretely about in a minute. But we also draw from the rest of the university, which means that we get people from, for example, political science departments, for example, from anthropology and psychology. And so these different, you know, academic disciplines add to the rigor, hopefully, of what we teach in the business school. Now, in one of the kind of broader design principle, before I go into the actual course content, is also a combination of academic rigor on the one hand and practice insight. So what we hope to achieve in each of the module is that, you know, there'll be people like myself with academic credentials who will give you some thoughts around theories, about frameworks and tools that you could actually use to kind of systematize the kind of thing that you might intuitively be already doing and thinking. But I think having that kind of explicit framework and theory might help you not only to, you know, hone your own thinking, but also to be able to kind of impart that knowledge to others, your colleagues, your seniors, your juniors within your organization as well. I think that kind of transference in learning is very important. And so we want to do that not just in the classroom situation, but also bringing in guest speakers from the world of business and policy who can actually speak to some of the issues through, telling you more of our kind of, if you like, war stories and things that they've really experienced in boardrooms and in organizations, experiences about expansion, but also experiences about making people redundant, difficult decisions they have to make, right? So it's a combination of academic rigor and practice insights within the classroom that I hope you'll be in the best situation to be able to learn from others. Now, I've said enough about these kind of general things, so let me go into the course structure and each of the modules. So as Joe told you just now, this particular diploma is divided into 4 modules. So you'll come first to the first module in January, which is called Global Strategy. And that, I think, for people who have done your MBA or other kind of management classes in the past, probably would be quite familiar with some of the frameworks that we go through. But having said that, sort of assuming that what you've done, if you had a degree or exec ed program elsewhere, and you've done that some years ago, that the world has changed. Particularly global business world has changed. People used to believe that the world is getting flatter and flatter, and crossing borders was not a big deal, that trading across borders, you have no tariffs or any kind of barriers, and it was easy. But I think this day and age of geopolitical uncertainty and turbulence, a lot of people would agree, I think, that crossing borders is a really tough thing, both in terms of tangibly, but also, with even digital products and services, you've got to think about differences in operating in different parts of the world as well. So we bring in this idea of non-market environment where in the market environment, you have competitors and suppliers and customers. In the non-market environment, you have to grapple with interacting with actors like governments, the state, actors like NGOs and activists. And it's really combining what you do in the market environment and the non-market environment that is very important. So we hone in on ideas around what we call the logic of the place, and a particular place could be a country, a region, subnational location. And for companies and organizations to take that logic very seriously in order to be able to formulate and implement strategy. So that's not all, but that's kind of the main idea of the module 1, where I will be partnering with an immediate colleague of mine, Eric Chun. He's a professor in management, but also a China specialist. And he will take you through some of the thoughts around the fundamentals of global strategy. Okay. And the second module, a few months later, is called Risk and Reputation. And this is very much about you as leaders thinking about how to deal with the turbulent world where the future is very uncertain. And one way of thinking about this module is really so 2 levels. One is very much at the individual level, and we will expose you to ideas around thinking of your leadership qualities that are necessary to be able to cope with the risks and reputational issues thrown at you as individuals, but also at organizations that you work for. So we're not going to do coaching per se, but I think that you'll get a pretty good idea of the kind of leadership qualities that you are good at, and the kind of qualities that you want to kind of improve or work on. And so if you want to go and get coaching on the latter, you can. The second way of thinking about risk and reputation as a module is a little bit more at the macro level. And this is about sort of thinking about the future and scenarios and insights about the future, so that you can be better prepared for uncertainties that come your way in the future. And what we do is to have a workshop around scenarios, but we'll ask some of you actually to provide your own organization as the live case, so that we'll be building and using scenarios for your own organization, which I think will probably have a very practical usefulness, hopefully, at the end of the exercise. So that's module 2. And then fast forward into module 3 is a module called corporate diplomacy, which I think in a way is one of my favorite. And so this is, slightly unusual way of thinking perhaps about business organizations, not so much as an economic entity, but as more of a political entity. Of course, we know about lobbying, and a lot of organizations lobby in all kinds of ways, but how we think about corporate diplomacy is that organizations big and small actually have to operate with some rules and regulations, but rules of the game. And some of these rules are given by governments of regulation and law, but other rules are either shifting or non-existent. So think about issues like privacy or cybersecurity or climate change, these really big complex issues where people disagree and people think that different rules would be the optimal rules that they want to apply. And it's really about how to influence the creation as well as the enforcement of these rules, some of which are not actually backed up by government enforcement. So businesses, I want to kind of think of, every one of you as business leaders who are in the business of influencing these rules. And with that mindset, we'll go through different kind of context to think about how you might be able to do the influencing and negotiation. In a way, it's kind of stakeholder management, but it's a little bit broader than that, okay? And then the last module is about doing business in emerging markets. And this is very much sort of interaction between multinational corporations that hail from so-called emerging markets, be they in big countries like Brazil or India, or much smaller but up-and-coming locations like Vietnam or Indonesia, and the foreign companies that enter those markets, and the dynamics around how that competition works out is one of the themes that, in fact, the previously mentioned colleague of mine, Eric Chun, will be leading that particular module because he knows a lot about China. And he'll be joined by my other colleagues, actually, Matt Amangwal, who is a Latin American specialist, and also Akshay Mangla, who's an India and Asia specialist as well. So that's really the kind of course components. And last thing I probably should say a few words about is on the final integrative assignment. FIA, as it's known, abbreviated, is a 6,000-word essay that you will write on the topic of your own choosing. So many people do an FIA on a live, question or a problem or issue that you're grappling with at work. And so this is very much about you defining what you want to write about, using some of the insights from all the modules with a view to it being helpful either for the company that you work for or for your career advancement, or in some cases more kind of society at large as well. So I'll obviously say a lot more about that once you get to that stage in the course, but it's one of the kind of exciting part of the program where you have complete control of what you want to put your head around and concentrate on. Yeah, so I think that's probably all I'm going to say on the content. Just the last word, if I may, Joe, if it's okay with timing, I might have taken a bit longer than normal, is to say something around the reading list. So once you get access to the reading list on Canvas, and maybe Hilary can tell you a bit more about the actual kind of pragmatics around how to access and all that in a minute. But the reading list is, well, depending on where you are, I think you either think this is overwhelmingly a lot of reading or not enough. But what we try to do is to carefully curate the reading list in such a way that obviously all of you are reading newspapers and, you know, other kinds of, you know, specialist and generalist information. You know, there's just too much information in one sense. So the curation is very much to do with I'm asking you, particularly in the essential reading, for you not to skim the reading, but to really digest and understand and raise questions around it and disagree, right? If you don't agree with what you read, come up with that opinion. There's only 1 or 2 assignments in terms of essential reading. Some of them, there might be more than that, but they tend to be shorter, like newspaper articles, but it's there for a reason. So, you know, don't skim through in the way that you might when you wake up and you just look at the headline on your iPhone. Just really, really read it carefully and think about what this is telling you about the issue for the session. And it's with that preparation, I hope that you can really become a good business leader as much as a thinker, and also interact with other people as well. So I think I'm not going to say more than that. I'm going to stick around for the Q&A, so I'm sure all of you have questions. So hopefully we can just address any of the questions or doubts that you have on the basis of what I've just said. And I'm going to hand over to Hilary.
Well, I'll jump in, just say thank you very much, Mary. Hopefully everyone found that introduction helpful. As Mary said, she devised this program a decade and a half ago and has led it ever since. It's actually a bit of a privilege of mine to introduce another class which are going to succeed and do brilliant things on this program. So thank you so much, Mary. It's time to introduce you to another very, very important person. Up until now, your interactions with Oxford has largely been with me, and I've done my bit in getting you on this call. And so it's time to hand you over to the wonderful Hilary O'Hare, your program manager, who's going to take you through, this is a more practical part of the session. What can you do between now and then? So over to you, Hilary.
Thank you so much, Joe, and of course, Mary. And hello, everyone. I'm Hilary, your program manager, and I'm here to introduce you to what is, and I say this with absolutely no bias whatsoever, the world's first and most prestigious university. So do allow me a moment of historical pride. I was born here, so from the global to the local. Oxford wasn't merely founded in 1096. We essentially invented higher education. So our minimal viable product of education was already global leading in the 12th century. So one might say we were the original startup. And if you think Silicon Valley will be annoyed with that claim, you can only imagine what Cambridge feels like when I've called them Oxford's most successful spin-out company. As a point of contact, next slide, please, Joe. Thank you. I'm now, as Joseph said, your main point of contact throughout your time on the programme here at the SAI Business School. So there's my email address in the middle, dipgb/admin. But I would like to also introduce you to our teams who are prepared to support your intellectual journey. Our assessment team will guide you through the academic evaluation, and there's their email address. The IT team ensures your technological sophistication, just proves that Oxford can innovate and come up to the modern world. The IT team are brilliant, and you will meet them in the first week. They will support you face to face. We also have our library team who will be providing access to centuries of accumulated knowledge. And of course, our admissions team, many of you will have been in contact with them already and reach out to you as part of your onboarding. For those of you who are future oriented, awaiting you on the other side of your studies and completion of your diploma are the alumni team, who will open up a large network of ongoing events and opportunities. A tradition of Oxford that is as old as the university itself. But of course, networking begins now with your own cohort bringing immense wisdom and experience from all over the world, as we've seen. And we hope that you will develop lifelong friendships and unions with each other. So your learning journey. Much like our venerable ancestors here in Oxford, this Global Business Diploma is meticulously crafted with its workings here at the university. The pre-readings that Mary has mentioned are dispatched 4 weeks in advance of your arrival, which will give you hopefully ample time to immerse yourself and prepare for your time here in Oxford. Mary's already mentioned that there are 4 modules. These span 4 intensive days here at the SIU Business School. The assessments, they're designed with academic rigour. So for modules 1 to 3, they are open book examinations. So that means you have 1 week and you're then writing 3,000 words. The module 4, as Mary's already said, is a comprehensive assignment, the FIA, and approximately you get 3 months to write your 6,000 words. All components are weighted equally, and we're rather committed to fairness, which is, again, a tradition dating back to when we were teaching medieval scholars how to think. But each module element, each module has 4 days. And if I could have the next slide, and we'll quickly see, other way, and a kind of mock timetable. Thank you. So each module has 4 days, and after a breakfast mingle, lectures begin usually at around 9:30 UK time, and we'll wrap up around 5:30 each day. We'll have a drinks reception on the first evening, which will allow you to network and get to know each other here at the school, and a college dinner on the Thursday. We are actually going to one of Oxford's largest and oldest colleges, Balliol, for our college dinner. And Balliol was founded in 1263 and really led the way with its impressive architecture in turning Oxford into a place open to all on merit. Next slide, please. Okay, so as a program manager, you might be wondering how I come in. As Joseph said, he's got to know you. Now is my time. I will be your cheerleader. Program managers are here to help you, and we like to feel as if we're the first point of contact for all of your program queries. So we generally operate behind the scenes, creating things like timetables and finalizing logistics. But we're here to liaise with faculty and help you as students on your journey. So if you do have any questions about your program or your Oxford experience, then please do get in touch with me. I can do many things. The things I cannot do are, in fact, bend university regulations, nor can I write your assignments for you. You wouldn't really want me to either. So, your college, as you are now, as part of Oxford, you'll be an associate member of Jesus College, which was established in 1571, which is practically yesterday by Oxford standards. It's led by Professor Sir Nigel Shadbolt, and the college continues our very long tradition of producing global thought leaders, which I'm hoping you will become. So your college association is a way to broaden your Oxford experience and, of course, your network. And we will invite you to social and academic events held by the college during the programme and to alumni events after graduation. So whilst most events are held in Oxford and London, some are indeed held abroad as Oxford disperses its network and its knowledge. You will have a short tour of Jesus College in Module 1, and you can return to pick up your key fobs and get to know the college during your time here. We will have a formal event with them later in the year. So your Oxford experience, Obviously, your main aim is to study for your Oxford Executive Diploma in Global Business. But you'll be forming a network of peers within your cohort with whom you'll not just study but socialise with. And we'll encourage you to broaden that network within the SBS, the Saïd Business School Diploma class of 2025. So the school has many students and centres and obviously sits within the wider university. To help you orientate yourself, we'll give you a walking tour. The Oxford colleges are all around us here. And of course, our beautiful Bodleian libraries, the Botanic Gardens, as well as some of the oldest museums in Europe are here. And you can try your hand at punting or even rowing. You might even learn about Oxford's historic pubs. They will leave the oldest pub debate to the historians or the particularly enthusiastic. But we do hope that you will get to know all the nooks and crannies of Oxford. And I will now pass back to Joseph.
Sorry, I was looking for the unmute button and pressed everything else that I wasn't supposed to. Sorry about that. Thank you so much to Hilary. So yeah, I'm now officially handed over. If you have any questions, Hilary is the person to contact. But I'm still around. You're still welcome to ask me things, but Hilary will probably have the answer in a much quicker and more helpful way from this point on. This slide is just before the Q&A. So this is really, really practical. These are the 6 steps to success between now and module 1. So these are things really what you should do between now and arriving in Oxford. Almost all of you have done the first one, pay your deposit. That initial deposit payment unlocks the onboarding process. So if you haven't done that yet, then you don't need to read any of the other circles until you've done that, because none of this is available to you. But many of you have done that. Thank you very, very much. The second thing, again, many of you, I'm sure, are well underway in applying for the relevant visa, booking your travel and accommodation in Oxford. So if you've done that for module 1, great. Some of you might have done that for all 4 modules, even better. You may have received some emails, university card forms activating your emails. And then you'll shortly be getting access to Canvas, the online learning site. It's really, really important that you complete those admissions surveys and university card forms. The earlier you complete them, the sooner Hilary and her team can set you up to make sure that you're raring to go. And with the Christmas break coming up, that's extra imperative. It'd be great if you could share your biography and headshot for the class profile book, so that when you arrive, you get that book and you know everyone that's in the class. And then it's over to you. I'm sure many of us will be slowing down, regardless of where we are in the world, over the end of this year, the festive season, and there'll be a chance for you to really dive into some of that pre-reading. There is a very detailed program handbook, which Hilary and her team have worked really hard to update. Please take the time to take that program handbook seriously, because as well as the pre-reading and all of the clever stuff, we need to make sure that you know about our processes, and various ways of safeguarding you and supporting you while you're a student in Oxford. So please take some time to read that program handbook. Excellent. Okay, this is the stage now where we all stop firing information at you, give you a bit of a space to take a breath. And if you do have some questions, then this is the point where Mary, Hilary, Jonathan and myself can support you in answering those questions. I think I'm going to stop sharing so we can have a bit of an open forum. You're welcome to put your questions in the chat, or raise your hand using the Zoom function. You can also physically raise your hand and I'll try and spot it if your camera's on. And we're going to kick off with one question from Kurt, who has put his question in the chat and raised his hand, which is fantastic, which is a question about using the University Sports Centre and sports facilities. So Hilary and Jonathan, can I pass that question on to you? What access is there for University Sports Centre during the module?
So Kurt, and indeed all of you, once you have arrived at school, once you've started the programme, you will be both a member of the school and the university, and your college Jesus. As such, the sport clubs that they have are open to you. the university facilities, university sports facilities are open to you. In the handbook and on the Canvas site, the program Canvas site, which you will get access to, there are some directions, I think, probably rather than details of where to look. But absolutely, if you want to get involved, there is plenty for you, and plenty of opportunity. You just need to throw yourself into it. In terms of punting, just seeing that Charlotte has mentioned punting, I'm not sure it counts as a competitive sport, punting.
It is, it really is.
Different views on that, but absolutely great opportunity to go punting. I would suggest waiting perhaps till module 2 or module 3 when the weather's a bit better, and more importantly, the water isn't quite so cold when you fall in. We will look to organise a punting trip for everybody in the summer when you're all here, but clearly you can also do it off your own back if you wish.
And just that, make sure you do it the Oxford way, not the Cambridge way. There is a difference.
Brilliant. Okay, Charlotte, do you have another question? Your hand is still raised.
Yes, yeah. So I was just wondering, you mentioned the Canvas site a few times, and I just wondered if you could explain, is it like a SharePoint site, basically, a sort of library of resources for new joiners? And also, does it have information about sort of the standards required for citation, kind of like how to actually write your 3,000 or 6,000 words and to properly sort of cite and support where you got your reading sources and materials from? Because that's something I definitely recall doing a lot of when I was at university and finding very important, but it's a very long time ago.
So Canvas is the school's, the university's online learning platform. From your perspective as a student, you will receive an email with details how to sign in. You can then sign in, and it's like a website. It's a series of effectively a series of web pages. It contains information about the university, about the school, specifically about your program, and then it will contain information about each of the individual modules. So what the learning objectives, what the aims are, what the learning objectives are, what the recommended reading is, what the sort of enrichment reading is. It also contains a specific section on assessments. That includes referencing. The standard, I mean, we're probably going a little bit into the weeds, but the Harvard referencing is the standard that we use here at the university. In addition, with regards to assessment, we will make sure during your first module that you meet the examinations team and that you're sort of fully briefed on what the expectations are, what the marking structure is, and we'll be provided guidance as to, in essence, what good looks like. Because we do recognise that for a number of you, it's probably quite a while since you sat a formal exam or assessment. It's probably quite a while since you were in university, and so there is an element of rust, knocking off the rust and getting back into the swing of things. But we will help you through that.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. We have a question from MJ. Thank you very much. How are the modules and assessments graded? Perhaps that's a question for Mary.
Okay, so Oxford has a philosophy of the separation between teaching and assessment. And that means that you're going to be submitting your assessment, which is your essay, anonymously. And each piece of work is assessed by 2 assessors separately. And you're basically given a grade by each of the 2 assessors independently of each other. And we basically compare the 2. And if there is a gap of over so many points between the 2 assessors, then they have to basically talk and reconcile And that's the ultimate mark that is going to be validated by the examiners board. So it's quite a rigorous, but also a bit of an onerous system at the moment. But in the name of the principle I've just mentioned about separation of teaching and assessment, and also fairness, this is the system that we have. So that's the outline. You hear a lot more about it when you arrive. Yeah. And I also see a question from Tina about the referencing software like Zotero and EndNotes. I think that's what you have in mind. That's probably a good idea when you're doing your final integrative assignment, which is a 6,000 word piece of writing. For the module-specific assessment, which is much shorter piece, it's probably not necessary, because a lot of the references will be on the basis of what you've been taught in modules. You refer to some of the sessions maybe, and then the actual case that you're given, which will be the basis for the examination.
Thank you very much, Murray. Any other questions from anyone? You can raise your hand or put them in the chat. Any questions that arose during the session or any doubts? Thomas, you have your hand up. Hello.
Yeah, sorry, I'm a bit tired because it's quite late over here. No, just a brief question in terms of Canvas, because for those of us who have an access to Canvas, but on the exec ed side, so I assume this is a separate access then to Canvas, totally different to the one which is existing right now. Maybe that only applies to me.
Thomas, you attended one of our open executive education programs for context. Jonathan.
Yeah, it was the two of the on-site ones, and I do have an access, so I'm just wondering if this is a separate access now again.
Yeah. No, great to have you back. It is a separate instance of Canvas, and so it will be a separate login. Yeah, use the new credentials, not the old ones.
All right, got it. Thanks, Jonathan.
Okay. I want to make sure we have enough time in the session for the networking activity for you to start to know each other, but we do have another minute or two for any other questions or anything else. Speak now if you have another question for us. Okay, obviously this session has achieved what we set out to achieve, which is brilliant. Wonderful. Okay, so I'm going to draw the formal and informative part of the session to a close. So anyone watching the recording, I'm about to stop the recording.